What weapons work well with each other? Different skills you can pick to help tune weapons to be better with each other, etc., etc., etc. That's some stuff that was put up on the training thread on our website. So I want to try to answer those questions that some people had. I'm just gonna double check the thread real quick, make sure. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like weapon synergies are the hot topic on the thread right now. And Ron Blade, you had asked about gunnery skills and shutdown override. So we'll talk about that one as well.
Yep. Yep.
Very cool. Alright, once everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and drop it.
Also, I know the Q button brings up everybody's information, both friends and enemies. But, like, I always have a problem when someone calls out, target Bravo, and someone's shot up like a UAV and they've got like a half dozen possible targets. What's the fastest way to find the one?
The best way is when somebody calls the target, they should say target Bravo. Bravo, red Warhammer. I mean, you call the target, if there's duplicates of it, you call the color, and people will just automatically pick out the silhouette, and the letter just helps them focus on it. I mean, you're calling basically all the identifiers very quickly, so everybody can immediately grab it. If somebody doesn't do that, and they're just bad at drop calling, for example, and they're not calling all the identifiers, you can pull up the target overlay. I remap mine to F from Q. I like Q for my cool shots. But
online.
I want to say if all the targeting info is gathered, it will show the letters. You just have to look through it. I honestly haven't paid attention to whether the letters are over their heads or not. I just look for the silhouettes. That's the fastest way for me. Alright, let's go to the central platform, Echo 5, Fox 5. Don't shoot yet. I'm just going to have a quick little walkthrough. We'll talk about some synergies and stuff. I'll demonstrate a couple things, and then after that we'll just fight it out real quick. I just realized I forgot to put the stream back on. There we go. It's really helpful when somebody paints their mech a very loud color. It's like, oh, shoot the white Atlas. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Everybody can find it. But during MRBC, you might remember that was one of our biggest problems is people did not call targets. I mean, when I had drop command, I'd call the target, the letter, and the color to help identify it. But oftentimes, one person, if it was a different commander, they would wind up just calling the letter. Delta, Delta, Delta. You'd hear that over and over and over, and you're sitting there going, which one's Delta? And people are dying trying to find Delta. Alrighty, I'm almost to Fox 5 now. I see you guys. I'm going to try it out here in the water. That way I'm a little cooler for the demonstration. If you guys want to park up here with the cars, you might have a really good view, or you can come down to the dock, either way. When there's a large group, I usually have everybody sit up on the platform. Small groups, I mean, you guys can come as close as you want. Out here, I just cool a little bit better. Alrighty. So, since Ron Blade's here and Elsie's not, we'll go over his topic first, which is override and when to use it.
Target acquired.
Alright, specifically, what were you looking for on that, Ron Blade? Just, when's the best time to punch it, or should,
Yeah, should I use it? Should I not use it? When should I use it? When should I not use it?
Target
it's pretty broad.
It depends on your personal preference, to be honest. If you talk to Mage, he's going to say, well, I use override as soon as the match starts. I mean, who doesn't turn it on as soon as you drop? I've heard him say that a couple times, and that's fine. I'm in the other camp. I almost never use it. I would almost rather shut down than override and cook off. So, like, when I'm shooting on my guns, that's a 50% heat spike. And let's say we're in a tense fight. I've already spiked my heat to like 80% or whatever, and I know I got to fire again. Maybe I don't have time to check the heat gauge, but I know I'm close. I'll hit it,
Critical.
and then if I go over, I can at least keep moving and get to cover. It just depends on your situation. How tight is your situation? How intense is your fight? Do you have enough heat left on the gauge? If you got 50% or more heat, you probably don't need to punch it. But if in doubt, punch it. That way you can keep moving. Because the last thing you want to do is override in front of the enemy team. I'm sorry, not override. The last thing you want to do is shut down in front of the enemy team. It would be better to override so you can keep moving to get back to cover. Absorb the internal damage. Note that, yeah, you didn't have enough heat gauge, so let yourself cool off a little more before you shoot next time. And just deactivate it afterwards. I tend to enable and disable it during match depending on the situation. So I don't, like Mage, turn it on and leave it on, but I also don't just turn it off and leave it off. I will throttle it on and off as the fight heats up and then as it cools back off. And also, if the end of the match is close, and it looks like a loss, I might turn it on just to deal as much damage to pad my score as I possibly can before they take me down. So the short answer is there's no real right or wrong answer. There's no real clearly defined white and black answer. You just got to kind of experiment with it, find out how it works best for you, and then apply it in the field when you find those situations.
Okay, so I guess one of the more specific questions, aside from that general question, one of the more specific questions I had regarding that is, okay, so I have my override on. Say I'm at 80% heat, and I fire a weapon that will give me 25% heat spike, so it's 5% over. If same situation, if I have 80% heat and I fire a weapon that's going to give me 50% heat, will that second one do more damage to my internals than the first one?
When
In
you
other words,
overheat,
does the amount that you're over dictate how much damage you're going to take internally?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that the more you overheat, the longer it takes to bleed the heat off. No, in the sense that the more you overheat, no, it doesn't deal like a modifier, to the best of my knowledge, that increases the amount of heat damage dealt. It's more time-based. So, like, if you overheat, it'll cause so many points of damage every so many pulses over a certain time, whatever the frequency is. I can't remember what the frequency over time is, but the damage is constant. The damage doesn't go up or down depending on your heat. The total damage dealt, the summation of every pulse damage dealt, will go up the more heat you generate past your boundary, because it takes that much longer to bleed it back off. Does that answer that part of the question?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as 25% versus 50% when you're at 80, I mean, that's the 25% that's right around where I would punch it, because I can slip in a shot. I have about a 50-50 chance that I might deal damage to myself. I might not. If I do, it's going to be minor, probably a single, maybe 2 pulses worth, which isn't much. And I'm pretty comfortable with that. I can sneak my shot in and keep moving. 50%, I would never do that. I just, personally speaking, I would never trigger that gun, because 50% override is going to kill you probably.
All right, sounds good.
And it might not be an immediate thing. It's just if you ever notice, like when you override, target my mech real quick. I'm going to do it so you guys can get an idea.
Engage. Heat level critical.
Alright, next shot should override me.
Override shutdown.
Alright, I had 3 pulses there. You see that?
Yep.
Didn't take me but a few seconds. But I had 3 pulses. And you see my right arm is moderately damaged internally, and I'm down 5% of my health. And that's probably, I was watching the armor doll, not the heat spike. But that was probably roughly 15 or 20% spiked over. I'll have to review the video and type a note or something after the fact. But I would say between 10 and 20% overheat on that. And you see how much damage I took that quickly. So if you overheat by a substantial amount, especially if you're already damaged internally, you've lost your armor and you've taken hits, you're going to accrue damage that's going to be devastating to your mech. And don't forget also, heat damage can crit your ammunition and cook off your ammunition. If it does that, you're pretty much dead on the spot. The internal damage will just travel through your mech and destroy your CT. Now they did recently, in I think the last patch, remove heat damage from the head, which I think is kind of stupid because the whole point of heat damage was to simulate the heat threat to the pilot. And but apparently people were complaining too much, so PGI got rid of it. So now you will no longer deal heat damage to the head, but I think to compensate, they slightly boosted the damage dealt per pulse to the rest of the body. I would have to go back and double check that on the notes. What was the other part of your question on, or was that the whole thing?
That was pretty much the whole thing.
Okay. Anything else, Ron?
No, so probably better idea to, if you're going to use the override, use it on laser boats than on
Probably. I
ballistic
mean,
and
the
missile boats.
ballistics tend to be relatively cool. You might want to use it on SRM boats because you can punch it and spike that heat, surprisingly, especially if the ghost heat kicks in. But yeah, laser boats is typically where you find it.
Alrighty, I think that's it.
Okay. War Dog, do you have any specific questions or anything for training night?
No, not
New target
about heat.
acquired.
Okay. And do you know about the training night thread?
Yeah, it's on the website, right?
Yeah, it's on the Brethren's website. There's a lot of resources on there. I try to link to different things that I find in the Mech Warrior forums, and also I'll post training videos and other help guides. So it's a really good resource. And also, if you ever have questions, you can post it there. Folks are pretty good about answering it. And you can also specifically request topics. Like Ron Blay wanted to discuss override and when to use it, so he posted it on there, and that's why we're talking about it. But also, you don't have to do it ahead of time. You can always bring things up ad hoc during the training night, and I'll be happy to talk about that as well. But if you don't have anything, that's cool. What I'll do then is I'll talk about weapon synergies. That was LC's request. Unfortunately, Curmudgeon can't join us tonight because he has a 2v2 tournament for Viper's 2v2 tourney thing that he's doing with a couple other units. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about that and then post the video and he can review that part of it. So, real quick, weapon synergies. War Dog, I'll start with you this time. What do you think of when you think of weapon synergies?
I would guess how they mix, or how they complement each other.
Bingo. So looking at your mech, for example, you've got two LBX-20s and two small lasers. So you're going for the LBX-20s for your punching power, but you got two small lasers to back them up. Gives you probably similar range. I can't remember what the small laser range is on the clan mechs, but it also has a short
200
beam.
meters.
Do what?
The ER smalls. ER smalls are 200 meters.
200 meters, okay. And then the AC-20 is what, 350? Somewhere in there?
Yeah, 360. Well, mine's 360, but I may have quirks.
360,
Yeah,
okay.
I have any quirks.
Within the 350
No.
ballpark, give or take, depending on
Yeah.
your quirks. So so you've got, not quite the same range, but if you're within range of your LBX-20s, you're probably within the extended range of your ER small lasers, which would be less than full damage, but still dealing damage. And the short beam duration compared to medium lasers allows you to fire them and then shield more quickly. So that's a good example of synergy. Also, you want that extra ton, I assume, for ammo or for heat sink, which is why you went with two small lasers instead of pulses.
Yeah, I've found that now that I understand the game a little bit more, I need more ammo.
Bingo. Some people run that without even having lasers on it. I tend to be a laser junkie. I like to have at least one or two backups on my mechs just in case I run out of ammo. It's kind of a superstition of mine. But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And then Ron Blade, looking
New
at your mech,
target acquired.
which is watching the fish in the water. You've got a UAC-20, a UAC-10, 4 flamers, and 3 small lasers. So you're going for DACA power, which you're wanting to do is shut somebody down. You've got the small lasers again for the short face time, and you've got the DACA so you can keep people rocking. It's not a bad synergistic build. By contrast, mine is 7 medium lasers and 2 large pulse lasers. That's probably the most classic synergistic build because the medium lasers all have, on this mech, 318 meters of range, while the pulses have 430. That means that I can fire all of them at 600 meters and deal decent damage. And that's about the furthest I'll shoot the lasers during a fight because I don't want to build up the excess heat. Past 600 meters is not really worth that heat build up. I'll not fire the medium lasers past that, but I will fire the large pulses past that alone. But the whole idea behind synergistic weapons, also if you watch the beam duration here, can you see it, Ron? If you notice, they start and stop very close together.
Heat level critical.
So that means that not only do they have very similar ranges, they also have almost identical face time. So it's not like if I had an ER large laser with that really long face time on there where I've got to sit there and wait for it to finish while my medium lasers have already finished their cycle, their firing cycle. I can just fire. As soon as one of them stops, they pretty much all stop, and I can turn and shield. The last point about this setup is the cooldown time. If you watch when I fire, I'm just holding the triggers down right now. They have an almost identical recharge time. So that makes these weapons, for all intents and purposes, virtually identical to each other. One's just slightly more powerful and hotter than the others. That would be the large pulses over the medium lasers. So this is probably the most famous synergistic build. In the past, Gauss rifles and PPCs used to have the same velocity. That made them a very powerful synergistic build because you could fire them, they'd move at the same speed, and they would hit with high pinpoint damage. You'd often see like dual Gauss and dual PPCs, or a Gauss and two PPCs, that kind of thing. And it was very punishing, especially during the days of the jump jet meta, where you could pop tart very, very powerfully and easily, much more so than you can now. Fire off all those weapons. The Highlander in particular was frightening, and just devastate people at long range. PGI desynced PPCs and Gauss rifles by changing the velocity of PPCs. But what they did unwittingly is they changed it to the velocity of the AC-5. So what happened was the meta changed from Gauss rifles and PPCs to PPCs and AC-5s, because again, synergistically, those two weapons worked very well together. Yeah, you're not dealing 15 points of damage with a Gauss rifle, but you know what? You're dealing 10 points with an AC-5 at almost the same range and only slightly less velocity. So people swapped over to that, found they liked the fact that it had a better DPS than the Gauss rifle because it fired faster, and it wasn't as weak, so it wasn't critted as easily, and when it was critted, it didn't blow their mech up. It actually made for a little bit better meta. And that went for a while, and then PGI nerfed that, and eventually we wound up at the medium laser and large pulse meta. And metas change over time, but generally speaking, they're comprised of the most synergistic builds because people want to min-max their mechs. They want to get the most effectiveness that they possibly can out of each ounce of their battle mech. So they're going to choose every weapon, every feature to be as beneficial as possible, which means they're going to match as much as possible. That's why they're also called cookie cutter mechs. Now you see some mechs which are not matching, like Ron Blade's mech, for example, has 4 separate weapon systems, which is unusual. However, these 4 systems act synergistically to achieve his goal, which is close-in brawling while shutting down his enemy. Yours has 2 different weapon systems, not uncommon, but is 2 very separate systems. The LBX-20, for example, and the small laser. Typically, you don't put lasers with large ballistics because of the phase time, but you can make it work because of the ones that you chose. You can also get the skills in the skill tree, such as laser duration, which decrease the duration of your beams, allowing you to have even less phase time to help match your ballistics even more effectively. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm good.
We got 3.5 minutes. If you guys want, we can fight it.
New target acquired.
And me.
All right.
Heat level critical. Heat level critical.
Oh, shoot. That's when I should have used override as an example.
Heat level critical. New target acquired. Alter torso critical damage. Heat level critical. Override shutdown.
Try that override.
Override shutdown. Left arm critical damage.
Ah, I was hoping to fake you.
Can anyone read?
Good fight. Alrighty. Do you guys have any other topics or anything else that you want to cover?
Now, the only question I had is on chain fire.
Sure.
How does that affect the synergy of the weapon systems?
You know what? Ready up real fast. We'll drop real quick one more time. I've actually got several chain fire triggers. Here we go. So as soon as you load back into the lobby, just punch your ready button and we'll try again.
Okay.
Alright, same thing. We'll run up to the platform and I'll just demonstrate the chain fire real quick. With mechs like the Ace, like your build, the twin LBXs, it probably won't affect it much. You're going to be hot with twin LBX 20. Alright, here we go. The broadcast pauses and resumes every time you load in and out of a map, so I didn't want to lose what I was going to say next because it had just paused. Anyways, but what I was saying is the LBX 20s, when you fire two of them together, spike ghost heat. So after just a couple shots, you're going to be very hot. So you're going to have to cycle fire your AC 20s. So what I would recommend for your specific build is 3 triggers. First trigger fires both your small lasers, second trigger fires both your LBX 20s, and the third trigger fires one LBX 20. And that will let you fire the LBX 20s independently when you need to and together when you want to. The small lasers have a low enough heat, you should be able to fire them together and not worry about chain firing those. When you are chain firing or firing singly your LBX 20s, you can fire the small lasers just like you would when firing both LB 20s together. Just fire 3 guns instead of 4. That'll help cut down on your heat buildup, still let you deal the damage, and it really shouldn't affect your synergy that much. My mech's a little different because of the nature of the weapons, and I've got 2 chain fire triggers set up because of that, which I can show you how that would impact something like mine that's more laser based. But for mixed beam and ballistic, it really wouldn't impact it too terribly. Especially a mech like Ron's, for example, that has the DACA, he has to have face time. So chain firing for him wouldn't really have that much of an impact.
So it's kind of twofold with chain fire. One, it keeps you a little cooler, but at the same time it also forces you to expose yourself more.
Yeah, depending on the mechs. For ballistics, if it's a DACA build that you're relying on chain fire to do the damage, it's going to be more face time. If you're going to do it for energy boats, it's definitely more face time. Missiles is kind of a wash. You can chain fire, twist, and shield, and then swap back and chain fire again with missiles. It really just depends on what you need in the heat of the moment. I tend to alpha strike my guns to get the most damage in as I possibly can at one time until I get too hot to do that, and then I switch to weapon group firing. I prefer not to chain fire because of the excessive, well, I'll just show you right now. I just fired all 7 medium lasers. Now watch. That's all 7 medium lasers. See how different that is?
Yeah, but what's the difference in your heat though?
The heat, see, if you fire them singly, there's much less heat generated, but you don't necessarily have to fire them singly to get the same effect. If I fire all 7, I generate ghost heat, so I go to 33% heat. I'm going to cool off here, and I'll tell you what happens when I chain fire them. All right, here we go. %7 heat. Big difference, but the amount of face time I just dealt that I just had is enough to get killed chain firing those lasers, and the damage I would have dealt is negligible because it would be all over the enemy mech. So how do you get around having too much heat and having too little damage? Well, that's where weapon grouping comes into play. So check this out. 23% heat, half the face time of chain firing, and I just fired all 7 medium lasers. I've got 4 in the arms, 3 in the torsos, and then when I go to fire the pulse lasers, I've got them on a 3rd trigger. So talking about chain firing again, if I fire all the weapons, that's 55% heat right there.
Override engaged.
Dumping a cool shot. Now if I fire in groups, 41% heat. I shave off 14% of my heat that way. But I still get most of my damage out in a very similar amount of time. It doesn't take me substantially longer to get the heat out, and I'm still able to get most of my damage in the same components. Maybe it won't all be CT, maybe it'll be CT and left torso, for example, but it's still fairly well localized. Now, if I'm chain firing them like this, actually, let me stop. I didn't let it get all the way to 0. Sorry. All right, here we go now. That was all 7 medium lasers and 2 of my large pulses. That went to 45% heat, which is 10% cooler. But if you notice, it's actually hotter than when I fired in groups. When I fired in groups, it was, what did I say it was? 41%?
Yeah.
So it's actually 4% more heat to chain fire these weapons. Because what happens with the ghost heat is it's not just when you trigger down. If you actually go look at the website, PGI has a post about it. I need to find it and post it on the training thread to make it easier to search. But they talk about the fact that to keep people from, in an attempt to keep people from building macros to get around the ghost heat issue, they set it up so that it was, if you fire them all at once or you fire them within a certain amount of time from each other. Like within so many hundredths of a second or whatever. Now, you can still build a macro to get around it. It just makes the macro act a little longer. And if you're firing manually without a macro, you're probably not going to run into it. In this case, though, well, actually, let me back up. I fired the large pulses twice that time, which I didn't do earlier. That was actually a bad example. I'm sorry. 1 second. There we go.
And that time delay works on
28%. I'm sorry,
tied
28%.
to certain. Is it only tied to the same type of weapon? In other words, if I have 4 medium lasers and I fire 2 of them, which shouldn't generate ghost heat, and then I wait a certain amount of time and I fire another 2 of them, it shouldn't generate any more ghost heat. Is that right? Whereas if I fire like 2 mediums, 2 large pulses, and then 2 more mediums, if I fire, let's see if I can verbalize this right.
If you stagger fire in groups like what you're talking about, it should not generate ghost heat.
Yeah. Okay.
If you fire them like this, that's what's happening. Is people are like, okay, well, PGI just did it so that now ghost heat will be triggered if I fire all at once. So I'll just tap as fast as I can. And to be honest, I was one of those people. I'd come up and I just tap it as fast as I could. But what was happening was PGI changed it with the idea that if you did that, you're still going to have almost the same amount of heat. Now, they tweaked it. I'm trying to write now, and I'm not getting quite the same amount of ghost heat I was getting. Actually, no, that's about right. 33% to fire all of them, and if I chain fire them real fast, it goes to 30%. So yeah, it's almost the same amount. So the idea was if you fire them that close together, you're going to build ghost heat as well. So that's why they put that in there, was to help combat macros. Instead, people just went in and manually modified the macro to have enough of a gap in between that it wouldn't trigger the ghost heat. You know, you're working so hard to do that at that point for negligible gains, it's just not worth it. You might as well just play the game, fire your weapons, and just learn to fight with group weapons instead of automating your combat experience, in my opinion. But if I do this, like I was talking about, like you're asking, no, that does not trigger ghost heat. Because what I did is I fire, I put a space, and I fire. Basically, if you wait for your guns to stop shooting before you shoot the next, as a general rule of thumb, if you wait for your current weapons to stop shooting before you trigger your next weapon, like I did just then, you're not going to trigger ghost heat. Now, if I do this, and fire them all on top of each other, I might trigger ghost heat. To be honest, it depends on the length of time in between shots. I don't remember if it was universal or if PGI had tweaked it per weapon. I would have to go back and check that. But whatever the time delay is, as just a general rule of thumb in the heat of battle, when you're trying to remember, just remember that if you wait till your lasers stop shooting before you shoot your next weapon group, you're not going to generate ghost heat.
Okay.
Alrighty. Let's see. Any other questions on that?
No, I just wanted to see what the difference was.
10-4. Alrighty. Any other concepts? Anything else you guys want to go over?
No, not tonight, but in the future, I'd like to see something where we talk about maneuver
Sure.
as a group. You know, like as a lance.
Yeah, what I like to do is I like to do lance versus lance combat. And I've actually just randomly assigned lance command to people and cycled them through it and have them practice leading lances and have the people in the lance practice following orders. And that's actually one of the more popular training nights. The only problem is you need 8 people. So you have a team of 4v4. And most of our training nights tend to be between 2 to 6 people.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I guess I'm late to the party tonight.
Yeah, sorry to Goss. We're kind of wrapping up. But if you have anything
Yeah.
specific, I don't mind hanging out longer and going over stuff with you guys.
Yeah, that's cool. What were you talking about?
We were talking about weapon synergies, override, and weapon grouping.
Oh, okay.
And I see LC and Marsh just popped in. You guys finished your TV2?
Yeah, sadly.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Did you brutally massacre them in a horrific way that makes it so sad?
Yes, that's
Sure,
exactly what
We'll
happened.
go with that. I like that one. Yeah.
Like that lionfish you're going to spear in January?
Absolutely. Right through the heart.
All right. Well, we were just starting to wrap up. Did you guys want to have anything you want to go over on training night? We can drop in another lobby and go over it. Or would you guys rather do drops in the game? Up to you guys.
I'm down with whatever at this point,
Okay.
personally.
Well, Ron, War Dog, you guys got preferences?
No, I'm
Nope.
up for
Either
whatever.
way.
Degas, Mars?
I'm good with just doing a couple drops.
10-4.
Yeah, I'm ready to drop.
Alrighty, well in that case, why don't we go ahead and kill each other and then drop the lobby?
The brethren tradition. I like it.
And I'm going to run away as fast as my little feet can carry me because I don't want to get close to those LBX-20s again. War Dog's cheating. He's running 2 LBX-20s on a Hunchback 2C.
Oh, brutal.
And he's shooting at me. That's doubly cheating. Not supposed to shoot your instructor! What do they teach you in Mech Warrior School?
I
Yeah, he
believe they
killed
get
me
you
last
bonus
match.
points.
Do what?
I think they get you bonus points in the in this
Target
game.
acquired.
Maybe. Ooh, Rombley forgot to clear 6. He walked up, put his back to me.
Uh-oh.
It's too good to pass up. Had to shoot it one time. See if I can pull off the sneaky. Nope, he's not gonna let me. I was gonna try to pull off the sneaky ninja warhammer, but he's not gonna let me. Yeah, let me pull off the sneaky ninja warhammer.
Critical damage.
Oh, that's just messed up. Flamers and LBX-20s. Starting to get the feeling you guys don't. Oh, I got him.
Actually, that's what that first Kodiak had, was OBX 20s and flavors. Nasty thing.
Yeah. Must run, must run, must run. Get distance from flamers. You'll never take me alive. Oh, he overheated. That was a perfect time for me to cockpit him, and my back was to him.
Heat level.
Ha ha ha! Take your side.
Override engaged.
Oh, I got the UAC-20 too. That's excellent.
Heat level critical.
Oh shoot, I used a cool shot on the demonstration earlier. I don't have my cool shot anymore. Notice how I'm using cover. I manipulated the building between me and Ron Blade in order to break his line of fire to buy myself some time to cool.
Override.
I released my override when he went behind the building
Engaged.
so my mech wouldn't overheat and cook off, but also while I had cover to protect myself from Ron Blade. So again, using the building to protect myself from his flamer.
Critical.
I'm going to kill him, or he will kill me. It's going to be close.
Medium laser destroyed.
And I got him. That was a close fight. It's tough to do, but if you can keep like a map in your mind, a mental map of where the cover's located in relation to your mech and the rough distance to it, you can fight while backing up or while maneuvering reasonably effective. You'll mess up. Like I find myself backing into stuff, getting hung up occasionally. But if you can kind of just remember the distance to buildings and all that, you can actually have a pretty good running battle without actually having to stop to check your six every few seconds. Alrighty. We're out of the lobby now.
That sounds like being map aware.
I said, well, if you're mage, you turn it on as soon as you drop into the match. If you're me, you turn it on when you need it.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
suicide
turn it on.
button.
That's not suicide.
Can be.
Hey, okay, guys, I have a serious question.
Uh-oh.
My video cards are running really, really hot. They are NVIDIA Titans. I'm running 2 of them. They are water cooled, but they're when I run other games, I'm cooking them. To be honest, I need to know: is the 1080 Ti water hydro copper worth it?
Don't know. Tom'sHardware.com has IT guys that answer questions on there.
Because I'm looking at these things and they're $800 odd.
I've counseled them just to buy it.
Well, okay. Yeah, you need to run that by my wife. I've got the money right now, fortunately, but for one, and then I'll save up and get the second down the road. 11 gigabyte memory on the card. It's insane. With a hydro water block that matches what I've got now. I'm just wondering, should I, shouldn't I? I guess I need to read the reviews before I pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're out anyway. Let me see if Newegg's got it.
Alright, I guess I'll create a group and send out invites to
All right.
everybody. Did I just send a friend invite? No, I didn't. Okay, that was weird. I thought I clicked the wrong button for a minute.
What's the difference between a 1080 Ti and a 1080 FE?
Mainly the consonants and vowels used.
TI is a Titan.
Right. Titanium, yeah, whatever.
The FE is probably iron. The TI is titanium.
Oh, good lord.
I mean, if you really want to know the difference.
I'm gonna drop out for a minute or two. I'm gonna go eat, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Roger that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Exactly.
Hey, guys.
So I finally started using my Evan Jag fire, and I fucking love it.
Evan Jags are cool.
6 medium pulse. It's just
Alright, if you want to know the difference, LC, it's about 7.978 AMUs.
What's that?
That's like the generic unit for mass for titanium and iron. If you take iron and subtract off the molecular weight of titanium,
Of course,
you get
the
the difference.
chemical engineer comes up with
There
the
you go.
molarity difference.
Sure. But technically it's not molarity, though.
Well, okay, density difference. I'm sorry.
It's not
But
density
it
either. But
sounding
you're getting
based on
closer.
that, I just got to go with titanium. I don't think there's even a question there.
I mean, the FE should be heavier, and you know what they say: things that are heavier are more expensive.
Yeah, just go for the gold-plated one.
Well, it's not gold; it's titanium or iron.
I know.
And
If it was
really,
gold, it would have
gold
it would be a 10. What did you say it was 1060?
1080.
1080. It would be a 1080 AU if it was gold.
Well, and hold on, but silver conducts better than gold or titanium or even iron.
Well, then it would be a 1080 AG.
Right. Ag.
Hmm.
1080 ag.
Yeah, which could be agriculture too.
Yeah, I am a
You
farmer.
could get a milk cow with that one.
I'm not a cow farmer. I grow almonds and pistachios.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
You know, one of these days I want to see a milking parlor for those almonds. How many do you have to milk to get that almond milk?
By the ton, baby. By the ton.
Can you imagine all the little L's you'd have to hire to do that?
You just shake them real good. Shakes the L right out of them.
The L's or the almonds?
Yeah, you shake the L's out of the almonds.
Mars, what are you running on your bushwhacker?
Oop, I'm gonna drop down in tonnage. I didn't realize we had
Oh, I need to get back in game. Oh.
Yeah, that would help.
I'm going to drop down.
It's kind of hard to play when you're not in game, LC.
Sorry, I'm drooling over these video. I'll drop some tonnage. I got an Irby.
I'll drop some more.
I'm
Oh
on
wait,
my
you're going
Irby.
from Banshee to Irby?
What?
You're going from Banshee to Irby?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like 70 tons.
That'll free up a lot.
I'm running my K9.
Alright, we have 55 free tons. Does anybody want to go up? If not, I'll go up.
Good choice of mech there, Damagag.
I want to go up to reach the Techno Kitty.
Alright, we have
Fine,
25 free
fine.
tons.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
No.
Like a
Here you go.
Verizon commercial, man.
okay.
Like a Verizon commercial.
Yeah,
no,
it's a new
can't hear
headset.
you.
Yeah, my other headset went down.
Oh,